Number 15. Mastodon Bones. Daniel LaPointe Jr., a contractor in Michigan, was digging in his neighbor's backyard with an excavator when he came across something he least expected, a giant rib bone, clearly from a gigantic creature who had once walked the earth. LaPointe knew he had uncovered something from another era. The skeleton that emerged was 4 feet long and prehistoric looking. Although he thought it was a dinosaur, it turned out to be the skeleton of another age-old creature, a mastodon. 42 bones were recovered from the property over 4 days, and the property owner and LaPointe sought an expert to set the record straight on what exactly this giant creature was. Mastodons harken back to the Ice Age. As relatives to elephants, they are, unsurprisingly, a hefty size and weighed about 5 tons when they trudged across the earth 10,000 years ago. The bones are believed to be that of a 37-year-old male mastodon, and according to Fisher, it may have been butchered by humans, judging by the tool marks in some places. Number 14. A fallout shelter. Chris and Colleen Ocasek had just bought an old home in Woodland Hills, California. Well, it's not unusual to come across some hidden gems and secrets in an old home. Chris and Colleen were not expecting to find an entire well-preserved underground bunker in the backyard of their property. The nuclear fallout shelter had been installed by engineer Elvin Kaufman in 1961 at the height of the Cold War era. In that era, in the 1960s, there was a much greater fear and feeling that a nuclear war was possible. Deborah Kaufman, the builder's daughter, told CBS the shelter was dug 15 feet underground and was intended to keep his family safe from radiation in case the crisis escalated and bombs were dropped. Number 13. A centuries-old graveyard. When New Orleans resident Vincent Marcello decided to dig a pool in his backyard, he came across something eerie. 13 caskets hidden below the earth. It turns out the land had once been a graveyard some 300 odd years ago. St. Peter's Cemetery had stood in the historic French Quarter of New Orleans, and the caskets were stacked over top of each other. When it closed down, the property was sold. The property's current owner, Marcello, had known the land was a historic area, but he never knew his property had literally been built over top a graveyard. He soon spoke with Ryan Gray, an archaeologist from the University of New Orleans, who said that overcrowding is what may have closed the graveyard. Whenever anyone would dig a plot, they'd hit upon previous people who were buried. While many neighborhoods would look unkindly on the unearthing of numerous caskets in their midst, Marcello said that this was the culture of New Orleans. The locals love this type of stuff. Number 12. Cursed money. Who wouldn't want to stumble across a bag of $150,000 in their backyard? You wouldn't, because this bag of cash is cursed. When 51-year-old Wayne Sabaj, an unemployed carpenter, was picking broccoli one day in his back garden, he soon found he'd be picking another green object, a couple bags of cold hard cash. When he reported the find to authorities, they told him he'd have to wait a year to see if any claims were made on the cash before it was turned back over to him. Soon a claim was made. Wayne's 87-year-old neighbor, Dolores Johnson, who was suffering from dementia, said she decided to get rid of the money because she believed it was cursed, so she tossed it into her neighbor's yard. A court settlement split the money between Wayne and Dolores' daughter. Wayne was due in court to collect his half of the bundle, but before he could collect it, he passed away due to complications from diabetes. No foul play was suspected. It gets worse though. When Wayne's father heard about his son's passing, he had a heart attack and was hospitalized the same day. Dolores too passed away that December. Curse or no curse, where did this money come from? A liquor store owner in Naperville filed a claim saying that he'd been robbed $150,000 in 2010, but he later dropped that claim. Being as such, theories abound on where the money originated. Wayne himself had thought it was crime money, but Johnson's daughter gave an on-point description as to how the money was contained. No criminal link had been made to the cash. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure this cursed money is worth fighting over. Number 11. A church bell. In 2013, a man from the Czech Republic was upgrading his plumbing when he stumbled upon a fantastic discovery in his backyard. Little did he know, the plumbing installation would lead him down the pipes of history. As the Czech man was excavating his back lawn, he struck something metal. There were objects deep in the ground that turned out to be somewhat sacred. Two large 400-year-old church bells were found stuck down in the earth. How did they get there? 11 years prior, the church bells were taken from the local church. It turns out, the bell thief decided that this Czech man's backyard was the perfect place to get rid of the evidence. But was the thief hiding them with the idea to return and recapture them someday? Or was he just sick of hearing the church bells go off every hour? We may never know. Number 10. An alligator in a swimming pool. Say you head into your backyard late at night to turn off an outdoor light. You're just moseying around, taking your sweet time, when you notice, in your pool, floating just below the surface of the water, a massive alligator just staring back at you with its hungry grin. That's exactly what a family in Florida was faced with. One Memorial Day, the 7-foot alligator had somehow made its way into the family's backyard and had set up camp in their pool. They immediately alerted the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office. Luckily, these homeowners took a second look this morning before jumping in to kick off their Memorial Day. The office wrote about the photo in a Facebook post. Deputy Lori Clark responded to the call, and a trapper was called in to relocate it. If you take a look at the video of the gator's removal, you can tell that he'd grown accustomed to his new home. No one knows how the frightening animal got in, but they were sure glad to get it out. This isn't the only case of this happening either. This photo comes from Sharon and John Bente. After discovering an even larger gator in their pool at 4 a.m. Number 9. 1,000-year-old Native American remnants. One thing you would never want to come across in your backyard is something human. One boy from Utah found just that while digging a trout pond in his backyard. He had been working on it for 2 weeks when he stumbled upon an animal bone, or so he thought. He told KTVX TV, "When I saw it, it looked like a human skull. Then it definitely was a bit creepy. I really do think there's others nearby, and I don't think that it's that unlikely or that lucky that I stumbled across this." The 14-year-old came across the skeletal remnants of a mystery man beneath the soil. Luckily, it wasn't fresh, but rather a 1,000-year-old Native American. Forensic anthropologists will look closer at these particular remnants to determine its culture and gender. Number 8. A perfectly preserved Roman villa. Imagine you discovered the Roman Colosseum buried under a tangle of weeds out back. One man stumbled upon not a Colosseum, but a perfectly preserved Roman villa dating back 1,400 years in his very own back garden in Wiltshire, England. Not only was it a stunning villa, but it sure didn't belong to a blacksmith or a working-class Roman citizen. It likely belonged to an emperor. How did it happen? While laying electrical cable in his bar, Luke Irwin plunged his shovel into an incredible mosaic beneath the earth. He snapped a photo and sent it to the city council to receive some direction. The council soon sent over archaeologists from Historic England and Salisbury Museum to take a look. Upon excavation, they discovered that the mosaic actually served as floor tile for a spectacular Roman site. They dug for 8 days and uncovered one of the grandest 3-story tall Roman villas ever discovered in England. It dates from somewhere between 175 to 220 AD. We found a whole range of artifacts demonstrating just how luxurious a life that was led by the elite family that would have lived at the villa. Archaeologist Dr. David Roberts said, Roberts worked on the excavation with historic England. It's clearly not your run-of-the-mill domestic settlement. Not knowing what it was, someone on the property had also turned a Roman child's stone coffin into a flower bed. The large-scale site has been untouched for more than 1,400 years, which fortifies its value and significance. The complex will provide archaeologists and historians a window into the Roman Empire's mark on Britain and what came after. Described as unbelievable and mind-blowing by those who have worked on the site, the ancient villa is now protected and will be preserved for further research. Number 7. A whale fossil. California seems to be where it's at when it comes to rare finds in backyards. A 1,000-pound rock was lifted out of a hole in a backyard by the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department search and rescue team in Rancho Palos Verdes, California, not for just any reason, but because it held a 16 to 17 million year old whale fossil. The peninsula used to be the bottom of the ocean, but has risen out of the water over time, ensuring that a wedged-in fossil might one day be found. The fossil weighed a half-ton and belonged to a baleen whale. Only 20 other baleen fossils exist. The search and rescue volunteers used a steel trolley and pulleys to lift the fossil out and transfer it up a steep slope to the truck bed, where it was transported to a museum. When he was a teenager, Gary Johnson, now 53, had come across the fossil. He immediately alerted a local museum about the baleen's remnants there, but no one was sent to recover it. A few decades later, and Gary heard of a 12 million year old whale fossil being uncovered in the area, so he called into the Natural History Museum, saying, I thought maybe my whale was somehow associated. Once alerted to the whale fossil's existence, the weight of the half-ton boulder became the issue. The search and rescue team used the recovery efforts as a training mission. Their efforts succeeded, and the fossil is now at home in the Natural History Museum. Number 6. Treasure trove of gold coins. If you could choose what mysterious thing to find buried in your backyard, it would probably be this entry. A couple in Northern California uncovered $10 million worth of gold coins in their backyard as they walked their dog on their property under cover of the shadow of a tree. Deemed the Saddle Ridge Hoard treasure trove, the 1,427 17th century gold coins were discovered to be incredibly rare and in excellent condition. They date back from 1847 to 1894 and had never been circulated. These circumstances imply that whoever hid them on the property must have done so immediately after they were put into circulation. They're valued at around $10 million, although some experts claim any one of the coins might be worth $1 million. The face value is only $27,000. The mysterious coins seem to have just materialized on the property. The property owners, a middle-aged husband and wife who chose to remain anonymous, have no clue who stashed them beneath that tree. They intend to sell the coins on Amazon and pay off bills with the residuals, while donating the rest to local charities. Number 5. Ancient Bronze Age Burial Stone. What's in your backyard? Probably not a centuries-old mysterious artifact, but step into amateur historian Stephen Davis's back garden, and you'll find a stone that dates back to 2500 BC. Now that's old. Davis and his friend, Claire Forbes, who just so happens to be a historian, went on a treasure hunt of sorts in search of a stone that had been lost for around 350 years, and the sleuth duo did some research and used some very old documents to rediscover the stone, the first of which was a legal document dating back to 1170 AD. The 14th century saw the area, including Davis's land, declared common land. Then, in 1636, A tax record stands as the final official recording of the stone. It was only when Davis had done some research of his home in 1987 that he discovered documents about the stone. He then went to Forbes, who was a local known historian, and exchanged his info. The dynamic duo decided to put a posse of the two together to search for the mysterious stone. They searched near and far across the Rodborough Common, believing that it was most likely not in one piece, having been destroyed somehow during all this time. We have no reason to believe that we'd actually find it. Davis said, "These things are buried, plowed over, or they just fall over." When they did make it, the stone's appearance was something fairy tales are made of, covered in ivy and looking more like a tree stump than a rock. And where was it? In Davis's own backyard. The pair were happy to share the astonishing moment together, saying the stone still had all the atmosphere of a pagan shrine hanging about it. The 6-foot-tall stone has since been crowned a monument by the English Heritage. Number 4. Mysterious Gem. When two sisters in Kitchener were digging for worms in the backyard of their home, they came across a mysterious object which could not be explained upon sight. The object was buried in the dirt, and it appeared to be a large bluish color and seemed to be something not of this world. What was it? A mysterious gemstone, a magical orb, a meteorite? The sisters thought it was the latter, as a meteorite had plummeted to Earth in nearby St. Thomas. They couldn't be sure what it was, so they brought it to a local gem and mineral analyst. When the mystery object continued to bamboozle, it was sent to the University of Waterloo. The school's Earth Sciences Museum curator ran the object through some tests. It was found to be a rather mundane object, simply a piece of glass that was often used as a lawn ornament. It is sold in big lumps like this at mineral shops in the USA, he wrote. Alas, the mysterious glass was a bit of a disappointment to the sisters, but it was returned to them all the same. Number 3. Prehistoric Armadillo Shell. Let's head down south to Argentina, where there are plenty of backyards to explore and many more mysterious finds to be had. On a walk around Christmas time, one man stumbled upon a 3-foot fossil of what may have been a 10,000-year-old glyptodont. What's a glyptodont? Well, it's sort of a giant armadillo that lived for ages in South America, tens of millions of years ago to be exact, thousands of years ago. It became extinct, and it's not uncommon to find their remnants in the area. The armadillo shell was recovered from the backyard of a farm near Buenos Aires. The farmer, Jose Antonio Nueves, found the shell along a riverbank at the farm. People immediately began crying hoax, as the shell does truly look unreal, but Adrian Lister of London's Natural History Museum, London, said that he believed the shell was authentic. Nueves thought he'd stumbled across a dinosaur egg, or perhaps a dragon's egg. The shell was particularly covered in mud, so he dug some of it out and found that the shell appeared to be black and scaly. But after examining photos of the shell, a paleontologist believed it was an ancient armadillo ancestor's shell. Glyptodonts often weighed up to a ton. The curator of American Museum of Natural History's Department of Mammalogy, Dr. Ross McPhee, also agreed that it appeared authentic. Despite it being incredibly rare to find a complete shell intact, University of Manchester's Dr. Bill Sellers also thinks it's authentic, but says it's a bit small and is likely a juvenile. He couldn't judge its species by the photo either. Whatever the case, the armadillo's fossil is quite a sight to behold. Number 2. A Ferrari. When most people own a Ferrari, they drive it around town, show it off some. They don't go burying it in their backyard. But in February 1978, a Dino 246 GTS was pulled from the dirt of someone's yard in Los Angeles. Why on earth would someone bury such a nice car? Well, it seemed to be a trend at the time. When she passed away, Sandra Eileen West was placed in the driver's seat, her hands at the wheel, dressed in a lace nightgown. In May 1977, She and her 1964 Ferrari 330 America, a beautiful shade of powder blue, shared their grave. A strange last will and testament. Who was Sandra West? She was a Texas oilman's widow. At just 37 years old, she passed at her Beverly Hills home, after which she was buried near her husband in San Antonio, cemented into her grave to deter thieves from taking her precious Ferrari. Hers was not the only Ferrari buried in the late 70s. Neighborhood kids dug up the Dino from some mud in a yard in West Athens, Los Angeles. They caught a sheriff's cruiser going by, and detectives were sent to the suburban home. After digging it from its grave, the crew found that no one had been buried with this particular vehicle. Despite having lived a life underground, the car was in good condition and was valued at $18,000, around $64,000 in modern money with inflation. After digging the vehicle out, it was time to dig into its history. The Dino was discovered to have been reported missing in 1974. Area residents hadn't noticed a car being buried in a yard back in 1974 or since, but it was clear that the thief had planned to come back for it because they'd covered it in plastic sheets and stuffed towels in to maintain it. Without any leads to follow, the car's insurance group paid off the legal owner and it was sent to the insurance agency. It was later sold and restored, but whoever had taken and buried the car was never found. Before we get to number 1, my name is Chills and I hope you're enjoying my narration. If you're curious about what I look like in real life, then go to my Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT and tap that follow button to find out. I'm currently doing a super poll on my Instagram. If you believe ghosts are real, then go to my most recent photo and tap the like button. If you don't, DM me saying why. When you're done, come right back to this video to find out the number 1 entry. Also, follow me on Twitter at YTChills because that's where I post video updates. It's a proven fact that generosity makes you a happier person. So if you're generous enough to hit that subscribe button and the bell beside it, then thank you. This way you'll be notified of the new videos we upload every Tuesday and Saturday. Number 1. Tunnel to the Great Pyramids. Probably the most unreal mysterious find on this list was uncovered in Egypt, where a local man by the name of Nagy discovered a secret passageway to the Great Pyramid snagging below his house and through his backyard. The passageway was discovered when Nagy was digging in his backyard for no apparent reason in his village. A reason would soon appear: a tunnel that led into the Pyramid of Khufu, the oldest and biggest of the 3 pyramids of Giza, existed deep beneath the earth. Nagy was digging deep, 33 feet to be exact, and only then did he find the stone block tunnel. When he'd uncovered the mysterious tunnel, he alerted the Ministry of Antiquities. Archaeologists swarmed the area and verified that the secret passage was the legendary causeway of the Great Pyramid. The passageway had long been a thing of myth. For many years, archaeologists had been in search of it, as it's mentioned in the histories by Herodotus. The 5th century BC Greek historian had said he'd visited the passageway, which was enclosed and shrouded in reliefs. Prior to Nagy's discovery, archaeologists were aware of a few of the causeway's remnants. The discovery may also direct archaeologists to a temple that is believed to be underneath a nearby village. The pyramids are said to be linked to this mysterious temple, which lies next to the Nile. So get out your shovel, Nagy, and keep on digging. Thanks for checking out this video. Be sure to subscribe because we upload new countdowns every Tuesday and Saturday. Or if you're still not convinced, here are some of our other videos that I think you'd like. Enjoy!